Hey, what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I have my April TBR video. So, as we normally do, we're going to start with the Roll for TBR game, where we're going to start with the epilogue from last month, basically figuring out what we ended up being able to do, then getting into the board game. I also have books slated for both the Orillium readathon that is going on in April, as well as our next round of the week-long readathon for Battle of the Bookish. If you've not checked out that announcement video, please be sure to go check that out, because I will be talking about the prompts that we are using for that, and they will make more sense if you have watched that announcement video prior to this one. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the Roll for TBR game. Okay, so for the epilogue, unfortunately, I did not complete any of the books I had slated to use for attack rolls for the Copper Wormling, so everything we are getting today is just going to be experience-based points. So, the first book that I completed was The Secret Adversary by Agatha Christie, which earned me 130 points. Then I completed Black Girls Must Be Magic by Jane Allen, which earned me another 130 points. Then I read the entirety of What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera, which earned me another 150 points. And then finally I completed The Fine Print by Lauren Asher, which earned me another 150 points. So now we are at 1,310 experience points. We are just a little under halfway to getting to level 2. Okay, so now we've got the game board set up, so now we need to determine what our race and class of our character is to determine our hit points and any other things regarding that. So let's go ahead and roll for our race, which is a 6. So we'll take it from the bottom of the deck, which is a Tiefling. The Tiefling special skill is that they are infernal, so any books that are red, orange, or yellow on the cover will earn an additional 100 experience points for each book, and this can be used however many times I would like for it to. There's no limit on this one. Alright, now let's roll for what our class is going to be. 5. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, a Tiefling Wizard. Interesting. Okay, I'm down with this. The wizard special skill is Mage Hand, so I do have the ability to do a repull of any prompt card, but it can only be one time in the game, so I have to choose very, very carefully. So, at one point, if I decide I don't like a certain prompt for a book, I can repull and try again. This does not, though, count if I don't like the stakes that are placed on the card. That's completely different. Place my little guy on the Hobbit door, and I'm gonna go do some stat building real quick, and then we'll get started. Okay, so when it comes to the Tieflings, there is an added boost when it comes to both intelligence and charisma. Tieflings will automatically get a +2 boost to both intelligence and charisma. So I did do a randomization for stats, and I actually got a really good randomization, I think. So what it comes to is that my strength is at a 15 with a +2 modifier, dexterity at 15 with a +2 modifier, constitution at a 14 with a +2 modifier, intelligence at a 13 with a +1 with that boost that I had been given. So I started out in an 11, and then I boosted it up 2 with the Tiefling abilities. Wisdom at a 14 with a +2 modifier, and charisma at 13 with a +1. Again, starting at 11, boosting it up by 2 because of the Tiefling ability to a 13. Now all we need to do is determine our hit points. So for Tieflings, they roll a d8 and then you add your constitution modifier. 6 + 2 because of my modifier, 8 points of health. So not a lot, but it's fine. We're still at a level 1. When we get to things like level 2 and 3, we're going to obviously have more health, but we're still at level 1 for right now, so this is just what we have to do. But without further ado, that is where we can start our game. So I'm going to pull out my d20, and let's see how our Tiefling Wizard fares. Nat 20. Okay, here we go. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That is a nature medicine. So, let's see what we get for our first prompt. A party member is bitten by an unknown creature in the underbrush. So I have to roll a 6 or higher, and if I beat it, I can earn an extra point of constitution. But if I lose it, I lose 5 hit points. And the prompt is to read a book that is slower paced for you. Okay, this ought to be interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and roll to see what we get. So we need a 6 or higher. When it comes to nature and medicine, which is in the wisdom category, we get a +2 modifier. 19 with +2, dirty 21. I'll take it. So that actually gives us an added boost to our constitution, putting us at a 15 instead of a 14 with still a +2 modifier. All right, I'll take it. Let's see what our next roll is going to get. Nat 1. Okay, let's get it out of the way right now. Move 1, that's a blue, which is Arcana. All right, an ancient spell book pulses with barely contained power. Oh boy. I have to roll a 15 or higher, and if I win, I get 1 boost to my intelligence, and if not, I instantly die. Well, this ought to be good. Read a book with something to do with books in the title or the cover. Oh, okay. Okay, so Arcana is intelligence. So I get a +1 to whatever I roll, so we need a 15 or higher. Come on, dice, don't let me down this early, please. Really? A 5? Well, +1 is 6. I'm dead. What is with this game? This game just, I built it, but it seems to hate me. I do not understand why. But with that, our tiefling wizard is dead. And that's going to be game. So, whoops. I guess I just have really bad luck with this game, unfortunately. Well, for the second month in a row, that definitely could have gone much better. I don't know what it is with this game recently, but it is just being a complete and total jerk face. I'm just annoyed with it. It's fine. Everything's fine. We're gonna survive. But for the 2 prompts that I did end up getting, the first one was a book that is slower paced for me, and for this I decided to reread Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. Now, I first read this when it first came out a handful of years ago, and I remember listening to the audiobook and it being very slow paced for me, and so I figured this would be a really good one to try because I really don't know what exactly would be considered slow paced for me other than maybe chunkier fantasies, because I do seem to take a little bit more time to read them. And this will basically be as if I've read it for the first time, because I remember next to nothing of this book from the first time I read it. So this will definitely be a little bit slower paced for me as I get into it and I start like figuring out the world and stuff like that. And the last book we ended up getting for Roll for TBR was a book that either has books on the cover or the title or has to do with something about books. And for that I decided to go with The Librarian of Auchwitz by Antonio Iturbe. Obviously there are books on the cover here, but also this is about a librarian who deals with books. And this is set during World War II, so there's going to be some very hard-hitting moments. It does take place in Auschwitz, which is the concentration camp that a lot of Jewish people were placed in during World War II by the Nazi Germany regime. So I think this is going to be pretty hard-hitting, and it's based on a true story of the Auschwitz prisoner Dita Kraus, who I believe was a librarian on the concentration camp itself. So this is probably going to be very, very heavy for me, but it's one I've been meaning to read for a long time. My sister had read it several years ago, I believe, and said that she really liked it and thought I would like it. So hopefully I do end up liking it to some degree. Okay, now we're gonna get into the books I am planning on reading for Orillium. So I do have one book, I don't know what it is as of yet, but it is for the Crescent Guild book club read. So I'm going to place that here, whatever it is that we end up going with. I don't know whether or not it's going to be something I'm going to be able to obtain, because it depends on whether it's available through like Kindle Unlimited or through my library, through Libby or Hoopla, or if I can get a physical copy from the library. I'm not really 100% certain. It just depends on what it is and where it's available. So we'll see if I can get to this one. The next thing though is that my character is going to be doing the graduate studies program, because Kaylin has been at this for a long time. She was a bit of a super senior because she struggled quite a bit with a lot of the content that there was at school, and with her social anxiety it made it very difficult for her to make friends and also then create study groups, and she struggled a lot with her studies because she didn't have anyone really to help her with that. She's gotten better, but not by much, because that social anxiety runs rampant through her. She is an introvert through and through. She does not like talking to people, so it is what it is. But she is going to be going into graduate studies to become a draconologist, which basically deals with dragons, which is a little different than what she initially had planned on doing, but she found so much love of learning about dragons and how to work with them, and because they're not necessarily people, she connected with them a lot more. She definitely connects more with dragons than she does with other people. So this seemed to be the perfect way for her to get into her graduate studies. So there are 4 main prompts that have to be completed along with the page count requirement for both semesters. But for the spring equinox, the first prompt is to read a book that has a dragon on the cover or in the story. And for this, I decided to pull over Eragon by Christopher Paolini. This was a book I had meant to read in March for my TBR, for Roll for TBR, but I couldn't get to it, unfortunately. And I am excited to read this, so I did decide to pull this one over because I got so close to being able to start it in March. I'm gonna pull it over and hopefully get through it fairly early, or at least sometime in the month of April. Next is to read a book with fire on the cover or in the title, and for this I decided to go with Burn Our Bodies Down by Rory Power. This book is covered in flames, and I've had this for several years. I loved Rory Power's Wilder Girls so much that I was like, I want everything this woman's gonna put out. So I got this several years ago, but I have never read it. So it's a shorter book, it's a contemporary, a little bit of like thriller, horror aspects, so I'm pretty excited for this to go on the TBR. The next 2 prompts are going to be ebook related. So this first one is to have the word fly in the title, and I decided to go with Fly with the Arrow. This is the first book in a series that is dealing with the Bluebeard legend. So this deals with, from what I understand, a woman who is set to marry someone, but somebody comes in and kills him, and so then she has to be forced to marry this guy, and then there's like so many other things going on in it. There's this overwhelming game that's going on, supposedly, that will like determine the fate of her world. And so she's really put to the test in a lot of ways. It sounds good, so I'm excited to see how that's gonna go. The next one is to read a book with the word sky in the title. And for this, I decided to go with Prairie Sky by Tanya Renee. I don't know much about this other than it seems to be a contemporary that deals with a lot of like hard-hitting emotional topics. So we might have a crier this month. We'll see. Next, for the extra classes that Kaylin has to take for her graduate studies, the first prompt is to read a book that has wolves in it for the animal studies class. And for this, I'm going with an indie book that I got a handful of months ago by an author that is from Michigan, and it is called The White Wolf and the Ash Princess by Tammy Lash. This has Ojibwe and Potawatomi aspects within it. There is a glossary at the back that has some very common Ojibwe phrases and words, so I'm excited to get into this one. All I know is that it's got kind of like a historical fiction aspect to it, but also has like some magic and things like that. I don't know really 100% what it's about, but I'm excited nonetheless because it sounds like it's going to be a pretty interesting read. It was part of a series that I found when I was up north over the summer, and definitely was interesting enough to where my mom and I, at the time when we read the synopsis then, that we both wanted to get it. So we'll see how this goes. And finally, the last book for Orillium is for my elemental studies class, which is to read a book that has temperature somewhere in the title, like cold, warm, hot, cool, something like that. So for this, I decided to go with Coldwire by Chloe Gong. Now, I read Chloe Gong's Immortal Longings and really enjoyed it. I tried to read the Romeo and Juliet retelling story, and I just didn't finish it for some reason. I basically ran out of time with the book that I had and never got around to getting back to it. But this is very much a futuristic, like dystopian game, virtual reality based story. So I'm very excited for that. And I did like the sci-fi elements that there were within Immortal Longing, so I know that I'm gonna like that from Chloe. So I think that this is gonna be a good one. And then finally, I have my Battle of the Bookish TBR. Now, I had a lot of carryover where like some things could count for Battle of the Bookish and Orillium and other things. So let's go ahead and start with that. The first one is the Trials and Games prompt, which I'm going to use Fly with the Arrow for that one because of the overwhelming game that there is involved in this apparently. The next prompt is to try a chapter. So for this one, I am going to test it out when I get to like that week. I will have to see what I still have that I haven't read yet and figure out which one I want to start with at that time. So that's to be determined until that week. The next prompt is to read a book that has death involved in it, and I decided to go with The Librarian of Auchwitz for this one because I am certain that there's going to be some aspect of death involved in this one because it's taking place at Auschwitz. There was a lot of death in that area. Next is to read a book that is an anticipated 5-star read, and for that I'm going with Burn Our Bodies Down, because since I loved Wilder Girls so much, I am expecting this one to be just as good, if not better. Next is to read a book that has spirals on the cover, and for this one I'm going with Realmbreaker, because as you can see on the cover here, there are these little spiral little designs on the cover, so that counts. Next is to read a book that has futuristic aspects or elements within it, whether it's placed in a dystopian era or a utopian era, whatever works. For this I'm going with Cold Wire, because it does have those futuristic virtual reality elements that I am very excited to see. I am interested whether or not it's going to be more of a dystopia though, rather than utopia. I'm not 100% certain on that, but definitely has those futuristic elements. And finally, the last prompt for Battle of the Bookish is to read a book that has a divisive ending. Now, I had to do a little bit of research on this one because I didn't really know off the top of my head what books have had a divisive ending in terms of like people either loving it or hating it, but I did find out that The Husband's Secret by Liane Moriarty apparently has a very divisive ending, whether like you love it or you hate it. And I really enjoyed Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty when I read it a handful of years ago, and I've been meaning to get into more of their work, their domestic thriller aspects kind of work, the domestic mysteries. So I'm curious to see what this one's all about. All I know is that there is like something that happens to the husband, like he dies basically, and then there's some secrets that are revealed after his death. That is all that I really know about this. So I'm interested to see how this is going to go and if Liane Moriarty is going to hold up in terms of what I remember from Big Little Lies, because Big Little Lies was such a roller coaster that I enjoyed it so much. So I'm excited to see how this one's gonna go. Without further ado, those are all of the books I have planned in terms of readathons and my roll for TBR game. Let me know if you've read any of these yourself and what you thought of them. If there's any that are really, really good and need to be kind of placed higher on my priority list. I do have kind of a schedule of some of these because Battle of the Bookish doesn't take place until the 3rd full week of April. So there's several of these books that I have to wait until that week for them to count. But we'll see. We'll see how things go. But thank you so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be, I would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owl in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys.